Regular meeting of the New Westminster Police Board for May 21st, 2024. In New Westminster, we start our meetings by recognizing and respecting that New Westminster is on the unceded and unsurrendered land of the Halkah-Speaking peoples. And we acknowledge that colonialism has made invisible their histories and their connections to the land. As a city, we're learning and we're building relationships with the people whose lands we're on. We do need a adoption of the agenda. Let's see if there's any last minute changes to the agenda or any recommended changes to the agenda. We have a motion to receive. Moved, seconded, all in favor, all opposed, carried. Maybe we should do a quick round table. There's a lot of people in the room. So maybe just do a quick round table so everyone knows who's in the room, just so we can all be friendly and like we're old friends. My name is Pat Johnstone. I am Mayor of New Westminster and therefore the chair of the police board.
For now.
For now. That's the sword Democles about it.
Wow.
David Jansen. You'll see me soon when I'm Brad Warner.
Emma Palmer, I'm communication coordinator and
Chris, I'm the communication operations supervisor downstairs.
I'm the deputy chief hospital.
Other board member. Mary, board member.
Amin Gossel, the inspector.
Martha Mishkarka, acting inspector.
Andrew Perry, inspector.
Eamon Ward, inspector.
Haley Finnegan, communications.
Patrick Boulogne, board member.
Hi folks, Drew Hart, board member.
Jacqueline Darren, finance.
Bruce Singer with the integrated teams. Sean Edwards with the integrated teams.
Stacey Dye, board secretary.
Great, thank you. And we have a couple of presentations to start with. So I believe the first presentation is on ITs. And I think that's Sean. Both of you. Okay. Do you want to do an intro at all, Chief, or just
I think the deputy was going to do.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just want to quickly introduce Chief Superintendent Bruce Singer. He's in charge of I-Teams, which is an integrated group of teams that we're very much a part of. And he's going to give an overview here of what that's set up, and I think in particular what our involvement is as well. Sean Edwards as well is also a strategic analyst there as well. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to sit or stand, or usually have a thing, but a clicker, the official word, clicker. Yeah, so we're the integrated teams. My name is Bruce Singer. I'm the chief in charge of our Lower Mainland Integrated Team program. We'll be introduced to Sean. Will also be talking as we go with this presentation. Sean is really the brains behind the operation. He's our business analyst. So we really have in the last 3 years moved it from a policing model to a business model. So every decision that we make in our unit is a business decision, except for
If we don't have a tech on,
It wouldn't be a New West Police Board meeting without a tech problem.
there we go.
Slide. There we go.
So we haven't been here for a number of years, I understand. I've been in the role now. I'm into my third year, just starting my third year. And what the integrated teams does and is allows a service model delivery so that your department can focus on the amazing work that you guys do in your frontline work, and then the specialized policing aspect of which is the expensive side of policing. That's all integrated with respect to the 5 integrated teams. The benefits of it is it's a force multiplier. So we have when you make one phone call or a couple phone calls, you have access to 344 police officers coming to whatever specialized policing services that you need. It allows you to mitigate the financial risks. So when we talk about that, the equity of having 33 municipal partners, 40 First Nations involved in the funding structure, as well as the province, as well as federal for the emergency response team, it allows us to proportionally share those services across all of those different partners. It also allows us to deal with the most expensive part of policing, which is the capital assets. So for example, one tactical vehicle for ERT that we're purchasing this year, $750,000. We're also purchasing 2 vehicles to transport all the equipment, and that's another nearly $500,000 just for those 2 vehicles, minus the equipment it sells. We run a little bit differently than the other RCMP policed jurisdictions, whereas we have a governance committee. So it's not just me making a decision or Sean making a decision, although that would be nice, I guess. But we actually put it through an integrated teams advisory council. So we meet 4 times a year to ITAC, we call it, where those business decisions that we have been working towards ultimately goes up to ITAC for approval, or most of the time not approved in the last year. Part of that ITAC is the province of British Columbia. So they have 2 members that sit with us so that they're absolutely engaged with the different discussions that we have with that. So again, we talked about the standardized level of service. So, for example, the emergency response team, or some people call it the SWAT people that come, you have unfettered access 24/7 to that emergency response team. And calls for service this last number of years have been going up. The cost equity with the integrated teams. So the majority share of the costs are factored on your 75% of your crime rate. So we look at that equity that's determined on your crime rate. The other 25% is based on your population. So that allows cost stability, so that if you have a whole bunch of people move into New Westminster next year, you're not going to have all of a sudden this giant increase, because it's on a 5-year rolling rate. Then again, we talked about, I just mentioned this, about the cost effectiveness of sharing on those capital expenses. So our training facilities, all of the expensive technology that we use, as well as the operational costs that we share on. This is the 2022 video. We're just coming into our year end for our 2023. So I'm just going to show this to you, because it allows you to see the different teams. I'm hoping this works. That's me. Hi, I'm Bruce Singer. Hi, I'm Bruce Singer.
5 specialized units. Each of these teams in their own right are the largest in the country. They are the only truly integrated unit providing rapid response to highly specialized critical incidents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The ITEAMS model, an integrated approach, demonstrates a proactive investment from communities, fostering cost sharing across contributing municipalities. The result is an effective operation which honors prudent fiscal and administrative benefits, while ultimately helping the citizens and those we serve. Let's take a closer look at your ITEAMS. Your Integrated Homicide Investigative Team, or IHIT, had their busiest year to date in 2022. Despite their name, IHIT doesn't just investigate homicides. They're also responsible for investigating high-risk missing persons and suspicious deaths where there's potential of foul play.
We begin with breaking news, a major break in the high-profile murders of an Abbotsford couple earlier this year.
The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team has arrested 3 men they believe are responsible for the murder of that Abbotsford couple in their 70s.
Your Integrated Collision Analyst and Reconstruction Services, or ICARS, is a dedicated team of 20 police experts who responded to 178 calls for service in 2022. These calls for service take several months to investigate and are all a result of fatalities or serious injuries sustained when there is potential for evidence that may support criminal code driving offenses. 73 of these collisions were a result of criminal fatalities where the nuances of crime scenes as well as vehicles had to be meticulously examined using very specific expertise, which could take several months. Your Integrated Forensic Identification Services, or IFAS, is a team of 59 officers that are strategically deployed throughout the Lower Mainland with scientific labs in North Vancouver, Richmond, Burnaby, Surrey, Langley, Maple Ridge, and Chilliwack. The complexities of investigations see the need for forensic analysts growing each year. Currently, we have 19 regular police officers who are court-approved experts. As well, we have 4 civilian apprentices who are completing their in-depth 3-year apprentice program. Your Integrated Police Dog Services, or IPDS, is a team of dogs and their handlers, which includes 48 police officers from the RCMP, Abbotsford, New Westminster, Port Moody, West Vancouver, and Delta Police Departments, and they responded to over 8,800 critical incidents in 2022. When these officers and their dogs are not training or responding to specific requests for service, IPDS handlers proactively patrol your jurisdictions. This team is utilized for their dog's ability to track, search for evidence, narcotics, and even missing persons, or assisting local search and rescue teams with locating human remains. This year, we saw the largest graduation of police dogs and their handlers in the Lower Mainland's history. The Integrated Emergency Response Team, or IRER, is a group of officers which includes 66 police officers from RCMP, Abbotsford, New Westminster, Port Moody, and Delta Police Departments. IRER is responsible for responding on a moment's notice to dynamic, high-risk situations that exceed the abilities and capabilities of your frontline first responders. They're also seen participating in your community events, including parades, assisting in schools, and providing presentations to your children. They have been utilized to assist with high-level security events throughout the country. An example would be the recent papal visit.
For Pope Francis's visit to Canada, the pontiff spent 5 days in Alberta, Quebec, and Nunavut last July. There was an enormous police presence at every site.
Hopefully I've been able to give you some insight on how the I-teams work in your communities and the impact they have in the places that we call home. It was so good, we'll see it again. I'm going to introduce Sean here for a few of the slides. As I said, he's sort of the business side of the integrated teams. When I first came on board, we did this full analysis of the teams to see where we are to make sure that we are the most cost effective. This last year, we've done that again using a pestle analysis, a Porter's analysis, as well as a value chain analysis. And we're just working towards coming up with our strategic plan with the stuff that we've learned from especially our value chain analysis. So we'll just hit the top parts here. Any questions? Don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you for having us. My name's Sean. I came to the RCP in 2005. I did graduate work in public policy and local government, and I've been fortunate to find a job to let me kind of geek out about local government and also remain employed. So this is the integrated teams right now. We've got IPDS. Not a lot of management, which I found very shocking when they first brought me in because they had 340 police officers and no corporate support. And I'm like, where? So now when they say, where did our money go and what did you do with it? They go, you can call me. Our partners seem to like that. So very briefly, we've just brought 2023 up to date. iCars saw a huge jump. This started in 2019. And we've seen it North America wide. Pedestrians keep getting killed. Their work keeps going up, which is unusual because they've been a fairly steady downward trend across North America for traffic collisions. But since COVID, it's just spiked. We're not sure if it's going to go down, but they've got a lot more work. For ERT, again, 2023 was a really odd year. Like, I have stats back to 2008. We've never seen this type of year. Most of that's coming from search warrants and high-risk arrests and weapons calls. So I think there's a bit of a theory that because of the homicides in 2022, that we're now seeing those search warrants in 2023, but without reading each file, I'm not totally sure. But they're rolling out a lot. So for ERT, that's a package of 14 to 18 people plus your critical incident commander. So they show up and lead out with the crisis negotiators and so on and so forth. So that's always a very big part. We track our mental health barricaded calls separate from criminal barricade, and you see 15 to 20 a year. But that's why the negotiators always come with their job. Earth's job is to provide space and time for the negotiators to talk these people out. So that's a big part of what they do. You do your forensics in-house, so I grade them out. We have a nice new lab in Port Moody, right across from the SkyTrain, very quick between the West and Port Moody. I just say, I hit, unfortunately, IHIT's going to cost more, and we'll talk about it, but we reached a point where there were no more process improvements. They were working thousands of hours of overtime. You couldn't do it with 7 teams anymore, so we'll talk a bit more about that. IPDS, your calls gone up a lot, and most of that reflects more people, reduced vacancies. For US, so this breaks you out. iCars, you're getting about three calls a year. Earth, 15 and 17. IPDS is pretty consistent over the 5 years. IHIT, 2021 was not great, but if I look at, you pay about $600,000 a year for IHIT, which is about the median cost of one homicide, $600,000 to $700,000 once that they have to roll out and go through all the disclosure and so on, and that's for where they find somebody very, very quickly. So you're receiving fair value for your money. So we try and analyze for cost equity at least, because we know it goes up and down between the communities, but the formula seems to work quite well in reflection of the usage we get. So this is the conversation we've been having with our partners over the past 3 years about where we started, and the teams were founded. IHIT started in 2003. The rest of the teams came on 2007, 2008. IHIT got a few more resources in 2008, so that's why the graph starts there. There's some assumptions. I used all our partners, including all the independents and all the RCP detachments, to talk about the increase in authorized strength, to talk about the increase in population, and talk about the resources we're using to address that. So I know there's not a direct correlation between police officers and population and crime rates, but that is the best way we have of expressing workload at this point in time. So we've come back to our government partners and said, we can't do it. Here's what we'd like to do. Here's the costs involved. And we've been having these conversations go back and forth. So it's come through ITAC to CAO, PBC, to the Mayor's Forum. That's the best governance structure we have. Unfortunately, we don't have a police board. We're hoping to get one in a couple of years, potentially with the reforms of the Police Act or something like that, where there's that direct governance structure, but it's complicated. And then I'm going to let the Chief talk about IHIT.
Yeah, so we have, IHIT has 6 teams right now. It was founded in 2003. I think everyone here, almost everyone here that's been an officer was an IHIT, other than Paul.
Only the really, really talented.
Yeah, there's lots of people have gone through IHIT. That's where I happen to know everybody from. So Sean talked about the contribution of $600,000 for the expense. 2 weeks ago, the province, we've been working with the province. So what happened was about 2 years ago, the province came to us and said, yeah, we're really concerned about your adequate and effective policing with respect to the integrated teams. And so we did a scrub down, we being Sean did a scrub down. And then we went back to the province and said, yeah, that's great. We've said the same thing. We've actually been saying the same thing for the last 15 years. And here's all your responses of not able to move forward. So they finally have announced 2 weeks ago, we're going to be having a new team of 17 police officers and support that goes along with it. It's going to be our integrated gang homicide team. It's going to be attached to IHIT. And it's going to be dedicated solely on gang homicides. What does that actually mean? It doesn't mean that every gang homicide the guy gets going to be rolling out to it, because as we all know that everyone that's worked in IHIT, it's going to become, in essence, a gang homicide cold case team, and you'll get about 3 of those a year, and then you'll be dealing with that, plugged up with that. So IHIT will still be rolling out to all of those things, but the good news is we're getting 18 or 17 plus the support sections with that, a new provincially funded fenced funding for that's going to be helping out. So the municipalities are not going to be on the hook for any of those expenses, which is good news for us. We talked about the calls for service have been going up. IHIT was when it was initially founded, it was for 25 files a year. That's what they expected, that they would sort of get 25. They'd be able to solve 25 files per year. And as we saw in 2022, we had 70. Last year, I think we had 44. So, I mean, if we're able to solve the 25 you can see there's a huge number that's not in the hopper that we're able to get to. Our 57% clearance rate, so that's gone up since Dave Johnson left the team. The clearance rate's gone up, and yeah, that's true. So we talked about the crisis point. We have been moving towards an increase to numbers with respect to the integrated teams. There was a very healthy plan put forward that's in everyone's multi-year financial plans, as well as signaled for moving forward. That's going to be changing with respect to the province coming up with 18 new resources. So we're going to be pushing that down the track a little bit and be a little bit more iterative as well, moving forward to be more cost effective for this. It's gone through all the CAO PPC meetings for the last 2 years, mayor's forums, as well as it's in the multi-year financial plans for all our municipal partners. ICARs, we have 20 positions. NUS joined in 2022. It was funny talking to, not funny, but I forget his name. He sits right outside my office. I'm like, oh, what's his name? Nick Dion. He's fantastic. Anyways, he's like, probably about 4 months in, I'm like, so how's it going? He's like, I've had more files in the last 2 months than I did in US from 3 years. So all that to say is he's becoming an expert, or not becoming, he is an expert now. So the amount of money, like we just put him through a very intense, rigorous course last year where we flew in some experts in North America to do this training with them. And like, you're not getting that anywhere else. We invited all the other CARS units from the United States up here to do that. And when they saw what we have with your integrated teams they're like, we're not getting this anywhere else with respect to that integration and keeping those costs down for all the partners. IRT, again, we have 66 officers, 4 civilians. Each file that we go to on average is $65,000 a call. So when the team's rolling out, that's about a $65,000 hit. Sean's so kind, he's like, well, you need about 14, 18. Mandatory operators, you need 18 operators per team. Then you start rolling with the CFP package, which is on top of that. So you have the CIC and the person that's in charge of it, the critical incident commander. You have 4 negotiators that roll with it. So you're in and around plus two tech operators. Now you're into about 24 to 26 per call of police officers available to you 24/7. With us doing the policing here in the Lower Mainland, where we have skyscrapers everywhere, it takes a minimum of 56 operators to deal with a crisis incident inside of a skyscraper building. So it's an expensive date when we have those incidents, and they have to be ready to go at all times with respect to that. So we have 3 teams with the emergency response team. And then we have 1 team always on operational readiness. They have to be leaving their house within 5 minutes of the call coming in, rolling for those after hours. incidents. IPDS, oops, sorry. IPDS. IPDS, we have 47 dog teams. Sounds like a lot, but we share those resources. A minimum you have, our minimum numbers is we have 7 dogs in the Lower Mainland in our area here at all times. They go from everywhere from tracking, and then they have their specialties. So we have cadaver dogs, we have drug interdiction as well as bombs, and you know, we're partnered and very thankful for our partners with New Westminster with respect to that. When we look at, and I've had this argument in the last little while, in smaller RCMP police detachments where it's like, wow, we want to see our dog. And, you know, that's great to say that you want to see your dog, but if you want to see your dog as a commander, you're going to need to have 5 dogs on shift to be able to deal with that 24 hours coverage. I don't know if everyone has dogs here. I've got a couple dogs. They sleep a lot. And by the time they get training and all that kind of stuff, so you need 5 dog teams to do a 24-hour coverage. So when you have those commanders or those watch commanders like, wow, we never see the dog around here, well, just call, and lots of times they'll have 4 show up. And then when we're not busy, which is very rare, we're actually patrolling. So we have patrolling areas around the Lower Mainland that we deal with. Moving forward, so after those reviews that we've done, we're coming up with our strategic plans. The biggest takeaway with respect to our strategic plan moving forward, the 2 biggest takeaways is we're dealing with our internal governance, and we're really looking at the interoperability between the teams. So in this last review that we did, we being Sean has done, is we really want to capitalize on the interoperability between the 5 teams. So we've had 5 separate teams, and over time, we've slowly moved them closer and closer to interoperability. So sharing those resources in between. So instead of having to buy, 10 drones, maybe we're buying 4 drones for the teams, because they can share those expenses. So we're really working on towards that. And the other thing is that we're dealing with is our wellness and employee physical and mental health. So every one of the calls that the integrated teams goes to, and we saw those numbers, unlike your regular police jurisdictions where they get to go to maybe a traffic file, they get to go to a school, they get to go to all the different things. Every one of the files that we have calculated there is a critical incident. So with that, what that takes is that we have to be doing a better job at making sure our members are not burning out, and we're taking care of them that way. So we have a proactive employee health support unit that we now have. We have what I say is the gold standard with respect to how we're dealing with. So we have peer support response teams to deal with the psychological aftercare of members' mental health. So you'll have a police officer showing up, and they might not be showing up there to deal with the actual critical incident. They're there solely to support our teams for their mental health. So it was one of my previous job was in charge of health services, and I really wanted to work towards changing that and moving it towards more of a business type, and getting our members back healthier earlier is vitally important. So knowing that we are up against time here, we'll zip through the last. So I'll leave this presentation here for you guys to digest, just that we're at the end of the time. As I said, we are going to be going through an increase to establishment. It was on a very tight 5-year timeline, but with what we've seen with the government for the first time putting resources into the integrated teams, we are now going to be moving towards pushing that down the track, and probably over a 5 to 6 to 7 year iterative process. Now, come right to the end of the time. Anyways, no questions? Good.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? No, it's great. I have one question about, talk to me about what the Integrated Teams Advisory Committee is. Who are those people? Like how are they appointed? Where do they come from?
Yeah, so we have, the ITAC is what we have interested CAOs or PPCs from different communities. And we basically, anyone who wants to show up for that has that PPC and or CAO, they come to ITAC, they get voted on, and that's ITAC. Plus we have two governments, people from the government, the province, police services, as well in there.
So it operates kind of like the police board.
It operates as a quasi. I'm hesitant. I was very like, oh, this is like a police board, and I'm being corrected by others. This is not a police board. Right. So I am the co-chair. I actually sit with the CAO from Richmond, who just announced her retirement, and so we'll be looking for a new one, co-chair. So that's where we sit. We sit 4 times a year. We're actually going to go to 3 times a year because the summer, the June one that we usually have. It's just after CAO PPC meetings, just before Mayor's Forum, getting ready for UBCM, and not a lot of interest in that one. So we're going to be moving towards going to 3 times a year, having more succinct meetings 3 times a year as opposed to.
It's like sorry folks, Mayor's Forum is I'm not a member of Mayor's Forum. Mayor's Forum is generally cities that have RCMP detachments, not cities that have police forces. I don't know if there are anyone from
I don't actually know.
The chiefs of the municipal departments get invited, but I don't believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any mayors or even CEOs from municipal ones go to that one. It's mainly the chiefs. It's the chiefs. Yeah. And just to follow up on that, I know there's a work with government and IT on that ITAC committee having municipal reps. Has that been worked through at all? Like for
ITAC?
Yeah, like from US.
I would love to have somebody from US there.
Is there any from any other ones?
No.
You know?
Not for ITAC, no.
Okay. Yeah, I knew it had been a conversation, but I didn't know how far it had gotten along on the government side of it.
Yeah, I mean, so that we can properly share and properly have everyone's concerns brought up and or discussion points brought up for fair representation. Absolutely would be, if we're going to have an integrated model, then let's truly integrate the entire model and move towards.
So there's no structural or terms of reference reasons why a municipal rep could.
No, not at all. And what the simple version, Sean's got a real difficult one. The integrated teams was really built on like Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. We just kept on adding things to it. And that's where we're at right now, where we haven't had an increase of any resources for 22 years, for over 2 decades, not one increase to establishment other than 3, which was internally funded. And now we're trying to modernize and look at all of those things. So absolutely be 100% welcome to do that. I would love for that. The more integration, the better.
Sorry, it's new to me. I'm just trying to figure out this organization. It's mostly civilian, with civilian and sworn members who are on that advisory committee, because you said you're the vice chair of it.
It's just me.
Just you.
Me
So
as a police officer. I have my team's commanders. Each of them, they show up to it, but
okay.
It's all CAO PPCs, and then me as the chair. Yeah.
Okay, then everyone else is sort of civilian representatives of various.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, let's try to get along.
It's Richmond, Surrey, Burnaby, both Langley's.
Yeah.
Kent, North Vancouver.
And North Vancouver. So it's kind of like small community meeting large communities. And the province sits. And it was kind of became a working group for the CEO PPC for some of the policing stuff. So they would turn to them and say, we need you to beat this up a little bit and let us know what you think of it. Yes.
But I think those are only our CMP communities, so it would be good to consider how you include your cities that have municipal police forces.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we have our first agenda item for the next year.
No, I think you got the rest of my answer. I'm curious about iCars. I got my own bugbear about vehicle safety and about road safety, and but iCars is specifically for it's a criminal investigation. It's to find out whether there was any criminal code offenses that were related to this incident, as opposed to like how do you integrate with ICBC and finding fault in accidents or doing any other investigation around accident to determine causative factors, or is it just simply is it a criminal thing that you're
well, we deal with the criminal aspect of it, but all of the data that we send them, like ICBC, like they're happy when we're involved because the data that we have is unbelievable. Never will I ever link my phone into Bluetooth on a rental car ever again, because it tracks your speed, your everything, and that was a training that they were in last week. Is like when the vehicle is now spinning, what does that actually look like? Like that's the nuances of it. So absolutely, they come up with all that stuff. We can't go to every single with 20 members. We can't go to every single crash, but those serious crashes where criminality could be, we're rolling to those, and we're starting to see those climbing back up.
And you share that data with ICBC?
100%. And not just data, like when they download these things, like we actually recreate the actual. You actually see a digital crash, the whole where the vehicle was moving, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing.
Great, thanks. Any other comments, questions from the board?
No, great information.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
real quickly, I just want to say, amazing partners. iTeam's been for us. iCars, obviously, listen. And Nick, I talked to him the other day, and kudos to iTeams and iCars. He was really feeling the pressure of all the calls, but there's been some support provided and more teams or however, and he's loving every second of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Call anytime. Yeah. Okay.
And then the nurses from the units will come
Now we have
wheel craft chairs. So constant
so we have civilian presentations from comms ops and out on patrol. Do you want to?
Yeah, who's going first? Chris,
all right.
Can I join us at the table?
Come on, join us at the table. Join us in the front row.
Wherever you want.
Wherever you like.
How about I?
As the board knows, we've been doing these ride-alongs at the beginning of your meeting, so we've got two today. And Chris is going to come talk about the ever-present conversation around call taking and non-emergency calls. And I'll pass it over to Chris to walk you can walk them through what
And so again, everyone, I'm Chris, the comm ops supervisor. So a little bit of background. So we originally started comm ops in May 2023. It was to help mitigate some of the long wait times on the non-emergency line. We'll experience when e-comm takes the calls. What we do, we handle all the non-emergency calls Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Including stat holidays. Some quick stats. Comm ops takes approximately 45% of all calls that come into NWPD. Each month, we take approximately 55% of all. We create 55% of all non-emergency reports that come in, and depending on the month, we answer between 800 to 1,000 phone calls each month. That can vary depending on a busy summer month versus a slow winter month. We also handle the front counter as well as call taking. So we do assisting walk-ins, admin mail, courier packages, pushing files through transcription for members so they can work on their computers. We do matters to policing because we generally tend to have a fast response time to answering phone calls. Usually it's just a couple seconds for them to be answered. In turn, I think this leads to more crimes being reported because less people are hanging up due to long wait times. At the same time, that means more officers can go out and help people, which in turn I think makes public perception of an non-emergency service better, at least during office hours. So, some things that are going well currently, like I mentioned earlier, we're able, at least during business hours, we're able to answer phone calls very quickly. So people are happy about that. We have direct access to members, watch commanders, which COM doesn't generally have. So we can talk to a watch commander right there and then. It's a really unique call or situation that we can discuss right there and then. Like, is this something that police can handle, or is this something that needs an outside referral? Received a couple, positive feedback from members of the public, which is nice. And then we have our own in-house SOPs that we use for all the calls. Approximately 100 SOPs for the different call types that we handle. And it's nice that if something needs to be changed, like on the fly, that we can just, liaise with senior management and then just have that changed right away. Like similar with the decriminalization of drugs at the new amendment. Again, we're able to quickly do that and then make sure it aligns with what we want to do here. Some of the challenges that we face at the end of the day, we are still two separate entities handling non-emergency calls. So we have ComOps during business hours, and we have Ecom during after hours. So sometimes, if it's after hours, people can still experience those long wait times on non-emergency, which sometimes leads to people calling or waiting until Monday morning to report something that happened late Friday night, which we'll still take the call, obviously, but sometimes it hurts the actual quality of the file due to the long time delay. It's something like a break-in enter, maybe they've already handled it and fixed it. There's no fingerprints anymore because they've cleaned everything 3 days later. That also leads into our online reporting. We have on our website, we have an online reporting system for information purposes only, something that doesn't have any suspects, witnesses, video surveillance. So we use a simple file number for their insurance or something like that. They can go through that. But we've noticed oftentimes that during after hours, or we'll see like on a Saturday afternoon, somebody will use the online reporting and bypass all the roadblocks we have there to, put in something that should have actually been dispatched to a member because they do have video surveillance or they have the actual name of the suspect that did A, B, and C. So we still push those through. Which we'll see that and dispatch someone, but it is something that still kind of happens. Yeah, we also have what Ecom has. They've been doing a organization project or a consolidation project to bring their SOPs down. SOPs are just our standards of procedure, like our rules that we follow for each call type. So like I said earlier, we have about 100 for all of our call types. Having worked at Ecom myself for a number of years back in the day, back then they had about 1,600. So every single jurisdiction has their own nuances for each file type. What constitutes a file in here might not constitute a file in a different file type in Vancouver. So they've been working on bringing it all down to about 96 SOPs total for all jurisdictions, which is nice for the call takers working there. It makes it a little bit easier, but at the same time, Ecom tends to kind of blanket cover multiple agencies into individual SOPs, which doesn't always align with what NWPD would like to do. Like one example would be when they first rolled it out, I think they only wanted mischiefs dispatched if the dollar value was over $25,000. 25,000, which I believe that's a big mischief. Yeah. Andrew's even said there's only been like 2 calls in the past couple of years that's been over that dollar value.
Yeah, that was Vancouver's wish, and some of us, such as us and Delta, were just like, that's not the type of service we want to provide in our community.
Yeah,
so.
had we gone with that, pretty much would never see a police officer attending somebody mischief happened occurred because it's not such a high. 5,000 threshold, which was the common one for everyone. So yeah, something like that. The only other challenge we also have is the fact that we also have no front counter. So depending on we have a lot of duties there, so sometimes we need to push files through transcription for members to be able to work on the file on the computer here in the attachment versus walk-ins coming in and they need help as well. And depending on our staffing levels for the day, it's either easier or harder to multitask, like handle incoming calls that are coming right now, while at the same time we have people that are getting impatient seeing us in our desks, but we're on a call. We have to like kind of balance it and work out with them as well. That's kind of the biggest challenge we have at this time, as far as like multitasking both roles. Yeah, that's basically it for what we do downstairs. Questions? Yeah.
How big is the team?
So it's myself, the supervisor, 2 full-timers, and a couple of auxiliaries. Today in particular, we have no available auxiliaries, so it's only the 2 full-timers downstairs. That's why it's only upstairs right now. Our operation required, so phone's always ringing, so we have to make sure they're upstairs to handle these calls.
Very.
Do you have a sense of the ratio of calls between daytime and nighttime?
That is like how many calls come in.
Yeah, what's busier, daytime or nighttime?
Yeah, so I run stats every morning. I do what we do between 8 to 4, and then I do what Ecom does between 4 to 8 every day.
Yeah.
So in general, most days we do more. I think the weekly stats right now, this past week, I think we did 97 non-emergency reports for the week. I think Ecom did about 60. That's usually about like they do about 2/3 of what we do usually. The day-to-day could differ. Some days they might just have a busier day because we have a day,
yeah. But
mostly it averages out to about they do 2/3 of the.
Okay. And then have you had an opportunity to experience higher wait times generally? Like what would be a high wait time for us?
So, I mean, when we first started this last year, we started just before the summer, and we had almost no staff at that time. We were just starting everything, and we needed to get trained, that kind of stuff. So we only had myself and one other call taker taking calls, versus which will be a little bit different this year because we have more staff actually trained. Even then, I would say back then when we were really slammed, it was kind of more wait time for that. Nowadays, like this year, I think it's usually like minutes, if that.
Do we tell people how long their wait is?
Currently, right now, I think it just rings until they pick up.
Yeah.
We do have a different phone system that we're trying to implement now that has that feature, but we're still in the process of getting that implemented.
So ultimately, we might be able to say your wait time is 2 minutes or something like that.
Or your position in queue is whatever it's going to be.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Other questions to the board? Do you also manage the online reporting, the online crime reporting?
Yeah. Yeah. So every morning I'll log in and then I'll pull all the reports that came in the previous day. Okay. And push them through transcription, which end up in the watch commander's queue. And then we'll read it. If it is for information purposes only, we'll review and approve it. If someone should have been dispatched, excessively.
Yeah, I've heard people. I mean, there's some maybe confusing feedback on the online reporting. It's like if you have any evidence, you have to phone us, and that itself is a bit of a strange thing people think of. Well, what is evidence, and what do you mean I have to phone you? Like, what is it?
Yeah, like if they try to click on any kind of thing that they have, it's like you want to report a theft.
Yeah.
It'll ask you, is the dollar value under 5,000 or over 5,000? If you click over 5,000, it will tell you like you can't do a call. Yeah. Or you can't do a report. You have to call us. The same thing. You have to know the name of the individual that did this, etc. If you press yes to any of these things, it will tell them that you need to call. But the issue is sometimes people will just bypass everything. They'll just say, "Oh no, it's under 5,000." So it's 5,000. It's like, oh,
it might be helpful to say why, because I think when people say like, oh, call, like they're like, I don't want to call, but if you said like, you need to call because this requires like the action of a officer in the moment. You know what I mean? Like sometimes just getting a bit more information for people.
I think that is in there already.
We do have kind of frequently asked questions and responses to be able to say that, you know, for example, what is evidence, right? You know, something that the suspect left behind, these things to help trigger those thoughts. Because I agree, you know, as the mayor said, just saying evidence, a normal person may not be alive to all those things. So we do have those cues that we did put on there to hopefully help people identify this is an appropriate forum. And that really was during the times when wait times were significantly high. We're seeing people post to like files to social media. Hey, here you go. I'm trying to get through. Take this on Facebook. So we tried to help direct that so people could make a better informed decision on what was the proper route. So
we don't have any way of tracking, I guess, people who sort of go to the online reporting form and then abandon their report because they can't navigate the system. But I guess we would.
You know, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know. I've never had that question asked.
They actually had a report and weren't just Googling the online reporting like I did today.
Yeah. Sometimes we have people coming into the actual front counter and asking like a report, just they lost a wallet or something.
Yeah.
And then if all of our other staff are taking calls, we can say, oh, the computer right here, do you want to make an online report for this? Just because turn in the information and they'll do it. If you do click out of it, I think it just has no actual info half of the report.
Okay.
Maybe Chris, what do you see as being the #1 challenge for you to be able to continue to deliver service such as we've talked about and the expectations that we're trying to provide to our community? What do you see as the #1 challenge in keeping that up?
Personally, I mean, just at the end of the day, the fact that we are operationally required, I do think it would be helpful to have another full-timer in there just to be able to always cover. Because, like, you know, I have about 7 auxiliaries on my team, but most weeks, like most of them have other jobs. They also work 4 on 4 off at different locations, which means for one entire month they're almost never available during weekdays, and 1 month they are. So it's just kind of hard to, booking in advance. We book 3 months in advance before shift. Right now, for the summertime, there's multiple days when there's only 3 of us downstairs, which would be definitely helpful if we had another person that we know for sure will be there, Monday, Friday, at all times.
What's the training load for a call taker? Like, how long does it take to learn how to do this job? I mean, I assume they come in relatively raw and then you train them to do it, or are they coming with a specific experience?
We have a bit of both downstairs. So we have some people that come over from econ that want more hours. They're a little bit easier to train. All I have to do for them is just show them our specific NWP SOPs, how we do them. And then just train them on front counter. So it's just a couple days, which is nice. For someone who's completely brand new, on an average, I would say maybe 3 weeks. So they have to learn CAD, computer aided dispatch, and they have to learn Prime, CPIC, the actual call taking itself, along with the SOPs. Yeah, it takes about 3 weeks. So a couple days on the SOPs, about a week and a half on CAD, another week on Prime and CPIC, and then half a week double plugging with listed to then take 5 calls.
Sorry, just last question. Sort of 2-part question. Have you found it hard to recruit for these positions? And who's doing the onboarding and the hiring? Do we do that ourselves, or is the city doing that? Like, what's the HR piece around hiring for these?
All the recruiting is done by us. The city does not assist with any recruiting in any positions that we do here at the New Westminster Police Department.
Okay.
So when it comes to the actual hiring, usually it's a combination of our recruiting staff as well as Chris. Chris is engaged and assists with the interviews and that process and the shortlisting. And then Chris, and hopefully with the help of some of his key team members there, also do the onboarding for all the individuals. Yeah.
Okay. And have you had much interest when you post for these positions?
Yeah, it's usually about 100.
Oh,
wow.
that's pretty good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, so thank you for your position.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Just before he goes, I would like to thank Chris for all his work and all that his team members have done. We've been really happy about everything that he has done, and also his team members. I know they've been a big part of this too, and their dedication. And it's been great to see, because we truly do believe the work that he and his team have done have made improvements for us, and have been able to deliver the service that we want. Maybe to his detriment, because sometimes people are actually waiting a few days to call us instead, right? Because they know we're going to get through. And we've heard those compliments from members of the public as well as to city staff. So I just want to say thank you very much. We appreciate it. So
Great work. Thanks. Chris.
Thank you. Would you like to drive, or do you want to go next slide?
Plug him in.
Whatever's easiest.
The project set up, I don't know, Brian, are you gonna talk a little bit about who you are in the department and your?
Yeah.
Okay. So I won't steal any Brad's time.
Or you can if you want, actually. No,
He's one of our, I think Almond would say, he's one of our amazing community engagement officers. You've probably seen him about a million different things. Almond's always writing about him. He did very well in our recent promotional competition, to the point where Almond was afraid she was going to lose Brad. So
she still might.
Still stuck with me. I'll turn it over to Brad to walk you through his presentation.
Okay. Does anyone know what on patrol is? Has anyone heard of it? No. Hopefully my chief has heard of it. He's approved it at their level. Before I get into it, my name is Brad. I am a police officer here with Westminster. Wasn't expecting as many people to be here, so that's wonderful. But I've been a police officer here almost 8 years now. And obviously I'm presenting out on patrol, so I am a member of the 2S LGBTQ plus community. Personally myself, I came out 2019 officially, I believe I came out as gay. Wasn't the easiest. When I first got hired here, things weren't the easiest as well. However, we've come leaps and bounds as a police department. It's actually insane how inclusive it is now and how welcome I feel. I think for reference, the competition to be promoted, I had not planned to do that in my career. I just wanted to be a police officer, and I think now I've kind of positioned myself to lead by example. Anyways, enough about me. And I don't want Daisy to have to type too much today. So out on patrol, this started back in 2019, and this is for members of law enforcement who are a part of the community. We looked at actually branching that, though. We wanted to do presentations with youth and just get ourselves more out into the community. So when I first joined Out on Patrol, they started in 2019. So my friend Chris Burkett with VPD started it. At that time, they wanted me to join the board, and just where I was at in my policing career, I wasn't ready to. I was kind of still figuring out who I was and that sort of stuff. So I wasn't ready to be a focal point of Out on Patrol. Now we're kind of getting a couple of years in. I'm part of the community engagement unit, and it might be something that I look at as joining the board. Something that we've been talking about. Yeah, let's dive into it. Do I have to actually click each one?
Calling card of our
Oh, well, it's not going up there.
Pardon me.
Okay, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
There we go.
Oh, very good.
So how do I get it to go to the next one after?
You just leave it to me.
Okay. So as I stated, it started in 2019, but obviously something big happened around that time, and it wasn't really kicking off the ground. And it started in Vancouver. There was actually, I believe, 4 agencies that were really involved. Vancouver, the RCP, Transit, and West Van were the 4 that were really involved. In May of 2020 is when we officially kicked off, but we had the Vancouver Police Foundation was actually the big financial supporter of the program. It is peer support, so it's big for us. A part of the community, it's hard in law enforcement. It was something that, you know, I know for myself being here at New West, I didn't know anybody else part of the community. So this program really helped me and actually allowed me to get to know other members of law enforcement in the community. We've really started on that community outreach and the charitable work and education. So for example, very fortunate, this past February, I went up to Whistler Pride and I was there for the entire week. And we have I don't think I have a photo of it, but we have a big booth that we set up and, you know, we just do a lot of talking to the community. We went up to Statlium and did presentations up at the Statlium Community Center. We did 2 up there, and then we did 1 with Pemberton. So that's with all the youth in schools. And actually at Statlium, it was quite eye-opening for me. The fact that we actually had youth come up to us and actually came out to us up there because they weren't comfortable in their community to do that, but they felt comfortable with us as members of law enforcement to do that. We went to Pemberton, did a presentation there, and it was awesome as well. Same sort of thing. We had youth wanting to engage with us, wanting to know our stories. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. When we were actually at the Whistler Pride and at the booth, no, you're good, you can keep it there. We'll get there. Oh, but it's not going up there. We did have actually members of law enforcement from down in the States as well. So it's been primarily in Canada that this program or this group has been, just because it's been a little bit easier to work it that way, but we're actually starting to expand down into the United States. But they actually told us that they had nothing like that down in the United States, and they actually aren't even comfortable in their agency. So it was nice to see us at Whistler Pride, people that they can talk to in law enforcement as well. So our big purpose, it is for members to support members. Mental health is huge in policing, and when you are starting out, you might feel like you're in a secluded group, but this kind of allows people to have other members to reach out to. We have very senior members, we have retired members in the group, and then we have all the way down to, you know, a couple months on the job. We're really trying to build bridges within the community. That's big for us. And we want to represent the positive role models. We obviously, I gave an example of with Statlium, like that was huge. And that was something I haven't experienced where you have kids, youth come up to you and actually come up to you, which is huge. We have started a scholarship. Last year, I think we have, I don't want to give wrong numbers or Chris is going to get mad at me because he'll probably watch this. Anyways, there was 8 scholarships, I believe, that were available last year. So we have quite a bit of, there's about $40,000 I think we can give out each year in scholarships. The scholarships aren't like you have to be getting into law enforcement. I have an interest in law enforcement. It's something that, you know, and I'm a part of the 2S LGBTQ plus community. So yeah, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. I probably could have done this, but so we do have over 300 membership applications. Now, it's not saying that you have to be in the community to be a part of it. We have, well, she left to the RCMP, so we don't like her anymore, but Sandra Tanape, who's a good friend of mine, went over to the RCMP. That's okay, I still love her. But she's very inclusive, and she's not officially a part of Out on Patrol, but she's, you know, an ally, so she can come out and support. And when I first was actually going to the events, I wasn't comfortable to go alone, so I actually asked Chris. I was like, "Hey, is it okay if like I have someone join me?" And that was Sandra. She wanted to come everywhere, of course. She's very bubbly, but she would come with me to all the events, which then made me feel comfortable and welcome to go to the events. We do a lot of peer support events. So unfortunately, I can't go Friday, but they have we have Hayak on Saturday. Prior arrangements, but they have an event on Friday night just to get everyone together that can come. They're going to a baseball game in June together. So there's a lot of different events. We have the ability to have 9 members on the board. Right now they only have 8. I might put my name in the hat. Yeah, this is just saying that the chief supported it at one point down. It was back in 2022. They did a presentation in front of the police chiefs, and it was approved for, obviously with lots of support. There we are, Pemberton. That's me and Chris. So like I stated, we have the scholarship fund. We do in-school presentations, remote communities. I've never been to Statlium Nation. Okay, it was awesome for me to see. It was awesome for me to bring that experience back here to New Westminster. And you know, we were able to actually have kids email us after the fact up there too, to want to continue with support through the program. So you're good. We have 18 official partners, so majority of the police forces, ECOM, that's Saskatchewan Women in Policing, BC Women in Law Enforcement, all partner organizations. So if you want more information, there's our website. For me, a goal is to hopefully one day get out on patrol into New Westminster Pride as a booth and actually have us set up there. I think it would be a really good community outreach. Like I said, it was great for Whistler Pride. We've been to Delta Pride. There's so many. White Rock Pride. Coming up is Kelowna Pride. So all places that we actually go to. So when it comes to funding, we actually have Motorola actually does majority of our funding, and then the Vancouver Police Fund also supports big time for money-wise. Any questions? I made mine quick. Sorry, Daisy, not too much typing today.
Yeah, Mary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I've never heard about this.
Okay.
Thank you for presenting to us today. I guess I want to have a more understanding of how does the New West community know, like the people in our community know about this program or know about the work that you do? Is it more for internal support, or is it external advocacy, or
so
what is the mandate?
Our big thing is internal support. Now that doesn't have to be just police officers. So it can be civilian or professional staff that work in the building as well. Like I said, it could be allies too. Big thing is support here, and then we're building on our community outreach now.
Okay.
So I should have said, I had members of New Westminster actually up at Whistler Pride, and they were shocked to see a New Westminster member up there, but they love the idea of us being involved. So it started out big time it still is support for members within law enforcement.
Okay.
And now we're pushing more and gearing more as well to get community
that makes
outreach.
sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about presenting in schools, what do you present?
Personal experiences, a little bit about the history of law enforcement, and kind of we touch on obviously the bad that policing has done to the community, and then how we're working to better ourselves. And then we actually we run a game with the kids as well, see if they were actually listening so they can win prizes. And then we open it up to lots of questions. So there's usually I think in Pemberton there's a solid 25 minutes of just questions from the kids. So yeah.
So is it, when you do presentations, is it more about policing, or is it more about your community in policing?
It's our community in policing. Okay. It's not necessarily, we talk about policing and we get into some stats of policing, but it is mainly us in policing and how we are represented.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I don't know if this is a word. You do a lot. I mean, obviously, community outreach and you do peer support. I don't know if there's such a word as in reach. Like, do you is there a role in, I don't know what kind of training happens at JI. I don't know how you sort of teach unconscious bias and even conscious bias and how to manage those sorts of things in policing. Is there a role for that sort of training internally in police departments?
Like for us, for out
you.
on patrol, it's something that I've actually thought about and maybe doing here in the department. It would obviously be a program that I have to put together and all that sort of stuff when there's time and community engagement, but it's definitely something, yes, that I've thought about. That would be a good presentation, even just more of a presentation of what we do. Obviously, a lot of people know me in the department and they understand my story, but doing that presentation too would be pretty big for members to see.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting. I don't know how, if this is something that's included in JI's program for new recruits, and like if we're even approaching that.
Not out on patrol. It's something that we try to sponsor within the department as something they can sign up for and then get to know more. Not everyone, like there's only a handful of us that actually present. So we have those 300 applicants that are involved, but there's only like 10 of us that actually go and do presentations. We try to encourage everyone to come out to booths with us at different events, but it's also comfort level for people, right? Not everyone is as comfortable to be a presenter.
Right. So, yeah. And your entire budget is VPD Foundation. So it's in the VPD Foundation.
They do a big part, and so does Motorola now. Motorola is a very big supporter of the program and gave us actually quite a big grant.
Right.
So it's a nonprofit, so yeah, it's a pretty big grant from Motorola.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
No, thanks, Brad.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
We had a presentation, heavy open agenda. So, but we'll now move on to the consent agenda, items 2.1 to 2.9. Does anybody wish to pull any of those items? Heather.
2.7 and 2.9E.
7, 2.9E.
I have 2.5, please.
2.5, Mary. Next second. So nothing else you pulled that's unclear. Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the remaining items on consent?
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. That brings us to 2.5 for operations. Mary.
Thank you. I don't actually see the person who did this report, but I really just wanted to have a little bit better understanding of the tables, and just try to. I just wasn't exactly clear on how to read this, and I don't know if anyone else can speak to the tables that are included in this regarding the critical piece. I don't know.
Sure.
Can you speak to that, Dave?
So this is a long running document that came in place way before my time. So I don't have the background how it came about to be part of the government, but the idea behind it is to obviously look at what would happen if some big event happened that we had to start collapsing the department because we're dealing with some type of critical. What's ironic is that we didn't follow this at all. The most critical thing. so I gave you that background and kind of example because I think what it shows is that this is a great theoretical document, I think, but the reality of any big thing like COVID, you really just have to honestly kind of wing it a little bit. But it just talks about if an incident occurred, whatever that may be, if we decided we had to collapse the department by 25, 40%, or 50%, where those resources would go to, and what would be the absolute critical lowest level that we would get to. We did take this document, especially with Daniel at the time, we tried to kind of follow it along during COVID, but again, like I said, it was just, the realities of COVID were different, so we had to adapt. So how much value this currently has for the board and for us even is probably something that might be, as we go through your governance manual review, whether you even want to continue to include this in that.
Okay.
Because A, you're right, it's very confusing. B, it just, I don't know that you can, I guess you have to have some starting point. But it really just doesn't really capture what the situation might be. Like, again, I keep going back to COVID, but I can't imagine another things like COVID being so impactful to society that you would run into where we didn't follow this. We had to really just wing it and see what the community needed or what we needed. So I don't know overall the value to it other than it's a good starting point.
Okay.
I hope that.
And this is the same as last year's, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
We just update the numbers to match any change with the organization as far as resources.
I think we talked about risk part of the conversation around the governance manual, and so maybe if this isn't the right thing, maybe we talk about what is the right thing, because I think we do need to have some kind of a plan, whether it's realistic or I don't know. I mean, what's the point of a plan if you're not going to try to adhere to it in some sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just didn't really understand especially the last call of the critical piece. I guess I just wanted to understand how this was put together and what did it mean. But if we are going to talk about risk and liability in our governance work, then we should discuss whether this is the right vehicle.
Agreed.
Yeah, to understand that.
For me, I think it's more, this is quite prescriptive. I think it's more developing some principles around,
that's a good idea.
It's more adaptable to different situations. Like you know, what areas would we start collapsing into?
Yeah, what are the priorities
exactly.
in some kind of catastrophic event, like an earthquake or something, where we do have to downsize and pull people to a certain place. But okay.
I just flagged now. Weeks away from
it doesn't matter what you say.
I'll just like, I think I agree 100%. And I think where we need to start as an organization is even higher is we need to look at how we're going to resource our risk management position.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or role within our organization.
Yeah.
We have it off the side of a desk. I don't know that that's sustainable moving forward. So I think that, and then get into the philosophy and the general overview. And this minutia maybe doesn't even come to the.
It might.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need a full enterprise risk management plan.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know what is the motion in this report. Just to receive. Okay, I'll move receive.
Second.
Move a second. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed, carried. The facility asset management plan for the police building, Heather.
Just one question. I see Inspector Perry wrote this report, but who did the analysis of the building? I mean, the building, I didn't know it was 83 years old. So
this is,
it's the post office.
Yeah, as much as I'd like to say I took a lot of credit for writing this report, I obviously borrowed a lot from the city's report and adapted to the
So is
relevant
there
part for
someone
us.
from the city who helped?
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the police department wasn't trying to determine that there was a facilities expert that looked.
Yeah. They basically undertook the whole project and then shared it with us. And then as part of this facility asset management planning process, they also solicited our feedback and wanted to know things like, did we have any growth metrics or space planning metrics that we use that could help them, or where are we at? We're at basically ground zero, right? We actually need to develop that plan. So yeah.
Just wanted to make sure we weren't trying to do facilities.
No, this was the last asset management plan before the city's done. So they've done transportation, they've done sewers, they've done water, and they've done facilities now. And yeah, all of them have gone through a full. So we have a 20 and 30-year plan for our facilities and recognizing what's critical and what's just in bad shape. And some things that are in good shape, and surprisingly, actually, maybe surprising, the police stations in actually pretty good shape, but maybe not that surprising considering the retrofit wasn't that long ago.
I'm skeptical of a number of the replacement values that were identified by the consultants.
Oh, okay.
They seem very low.
Yes. We recognize that. We recognize that as a challenge to a lot of our. Jack, we can probably talk more about this. I guess a lot of it does have to do with finance. A lot of it has to do with us updating actual replacement values versus the amortized value of the asset, right?
Yeah.
But I hear you. And trust me, I hear you on all 4 of our facilities asset management plans that we have in the city, that they're all we're concerned about inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or concerns with this? So now I'm going to get a motion to receive. All in favor, opposed, carried. Thanks. 2.9E, discussion paper on regionalization.
So at the end, it asks if like any of us want to participate in like focus groups around regionalization. I was just wondering what the board's thoughts are. Should we attend individually, or do we want to like kind of come up with like kind of a board position, et cetera, just like an open forum about what we want to do with this? Because we probably should put something forward, because the ones won't be impacted by any regionalization.
So we're talking about this at BCA PP, which is Friday. So it's inconvenient for me because we always have this meeting and then the details are coming up on Friday, but I should know more by Friday. I don't know if we want to make decisions like that now or maybe next meeting.
Thank you, Heather, because I was going to raise this as well. We've missed the deadline on reaching out, but I wondered from the chief, like, are you doing any? Are you involved in any? Is the department involved in any way? You must be.
Through the municipal chiefs, we are.
Okay.
Chief John Lowe from Westminster is taking the lead on it. So we are at the chiefs level.
But not specific to
specific to New West at this time. At least I haven't. I don't know if you have some.
I mean, we can put.
Well,
we missed the deadline. We're supposed to do someone forward.
I should let Paul speak. Paul sits on.
Yeah, so I sat on a committee that came to ground on this discussion paper. So I'm also part of an advisory committee that advises the people that are actually doing the work. So if there is an interest, like for instance, I'm being engaged from my perspective and the organizational perspective, but I'm sure we could facilitate something where the board wants to have a discussion as a board or as individuals. We could do that despite they're looking for a quick turnaround. The government's looking for September. They want initial feedback. But again, it's a discussion paper. I mean, part of the all-purpose committee's report on the reform of the police act. I think the first recommendation was replace the RCMP as a provincial police force. I'm not saying that is going to happen, but from the community chief's perspective, we really wanted to get ahead of that and have some kind of data about what that would look like in the Lower Mainland and the province.
Because I think there's a provincial force and then regionalized municipal force. It's kind of like Ontario, right?
Well, yes. I mean, I think it's just going to look at that. What are the potential models? I think they want to come up with 3 models. Is it just one big provincial police force? I don't think that's probably where they'll land. But or they start to break it up into regional enterprises, South Island or Mainland Interior. So yeah, I think if there is an interest, individual or group level, we can probably do something to facilitate that. Necessary.
So I leave it to the board to sort of decide how they want to forward that. It does sound like just integrating sort of reading the report and coming up with some sort of position as a board might take a bit of effort and some time. It may even, I mean, I don't know whether you want a meeting around at a board meeting or whether you want to have a separate discussion around reviewing it. We could even, if you wanted, we could strike a task force of board members who are interested in this to sort of provide a bit of feedback if you want to do a formal response.
This is an extremely complex issue,
exactly.
to say the least.
So, I don't feel like I have the knowledge or the information to have an opinion, really. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to have an opinion that's completely opposed to what you believe here in the department. So I don't know. I think it's a tricky one. But maybe if there's a way to keep us informed so we understand more about the complexity and what your input would be, you know, we could, I guess, determine if that's really opposed to what we might think. But I would feel I need some education on this piece.
It's also kind of a funny question for boards and our roles as boards to be where we have an obligation to be loyal to the department, but also we have personal views. Like it's a bit of a weird dynamic.
It also all depends on how they're asking the questions, right? Like the engagement process might not be that you need education. It might be like, what do you think the pros are having a a municipal, like a regional approach, right? Like it depends on how the engagement is designed, actually.
It did come true, recall, it did come up to some of the BCA
at the conference
meetings, and to everyone's point, there's a wide variety of opinions about, and there's benefits and drawbacks to doing it or not doing it. So I think that's what this discussion paper is, to talk about those. I think I'm generalizing, but you'll probably see the larger departments are generally more in favor, where the smaller ones are not. But the reasons that the smaller departments are not might very well be ill-informed. They might be more based on just speculation. I mean, for the most part, regional policing in the lower mainland context exists. The RCMP do it. They provide that model. So it's a healthy discussion, and again, I think it's gaining more and more traction. Cost containment for policing is probably one of the driving factors. Policing, as well known, is not inexpensive, and the ability to move resources around or cost share to the integrated teams model is sort of gaining more and more traction in the policing leadership community. But certainly boards and communities themselves don't want to see a degradation of services either. If you're paying the same amount, you want to have the same level of service. I think that's the concern that many have.
So I guess the options before us are, we can either just sort of track this conversation as it goes along. We can, as a group or as appointing individuals, we can get involved in the conversation. It doesn't sound like we're ready to drive the conversation, which would be the third level. So I don't know if you want, Patrick, I know you were in that conversation at the BCAPV. I don't know if you want to maybe provide some feedback back to the board after that conversation, and maybe we can include this in the agenda for the next board meeting. And just sort of given that information to the BCAPV, how we want to engage. The question really is that, do we want to track this and follow it as it goes along and sort of take the risk that we're just, well, not really that big a risk, but we just track as it goes along, or is this something we want to actively engage in as a group? So,
sorry, just one thing I forgot was one of the big things that was brought up by board members was the governance model. You're going to create this massive regional group. Are you going to be losing localized governance and those kind of things?
Will it be the RCMP model as opposed to the local?
No, it'll be the econ model.
The econ model. We have a 30-member board that can't do anything.
Okay, so I guess I don't know if there's clear direction coming out of that, other than maybe we'll wait for, maybe Patrick could report back on anything that comes up out of that BCAPV meeting. And then maybe I'll just ask the chief to maybe include this as an agenda item next agenda.
Keep us updated.
And keep us so we can have an update conversation about it. Does that make sense?
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Maybe if you could put that in the form of a motion. Daisy's way ahead of us.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed, carried. Thanks. 3.1, report on restorative justice. Inspector Gosel. Oh, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Good. So just a brief summary of the report, which was to update the board on the historical and present status of restorative justice within our department, as well as strategies being pursued to enhance referrals for the restorative justice program. So as most of you are aware, restorative justice is an alternative approach to conventional court systems. It facilitates dialogue between offenders and victims and other impacted parties to repair harm and reduce reoffending. So since 2004, Communities Embracing Restorative Justice Action, also known as CERA, has been the primary service provider for restorative justice in Westminster. And we've made approximately 64 referrals since 2004. However, referrals have declined, with the last one occurring in 2021. And this decline is attributed with the discontinuation of the Child and Youth Liaison Officer program in the New Westminster School District. This program, the Child and Youth Liaison Officer program, traditionally handled these referrals. And currently, right now, the City of New Westminster is funding CERA through grants. So we reviewed the restorative justice practices across the neighboring law enforcement agencies to see what they were doing and how they were making their referrals. And the findings showed varied approaches, with some agencies actually having embedded coordinators within their departments who streamline the referrals. So some of the key factors that are contributing that we found to the absence of our referrals to restorative justice include the school district involvement. So most of our referrals were coming from the schools, and since the end of the child and youth liaison officer position, we haven't really seen any referrals. The schools are handling them internally. They have trained restorative justice staff in their schools who facilitate that. Another key factor is we don't have a dedicated coordinator. So previously, the child and youth liaison officer, one of their duties was to be the coordinator because most of our referrals were coming from the school. Since the end of that program, we don't have that position anymore. And then the third is the training and education around it, because we are missing that coordinator. There is really no one to go to for advice or information about the referral process. So right now we are exploring different ways to enhance restorative justice delivery. We want to get it going again and make these referrals. So we've been engaged with Crown Council and Youth Probation, who are fully supportive of advancing these initiatives. So plans are underway on how we're going to look at refining the referral process and who we're going to designate as a coordinator and how we're going to provide these training sessions with our patrol members. So this area is to deal with youth referrals, and then we're going to also look at how we're going to do the adult referral system. And Sierra's engaged as well and have offered to support us with the training as well. And the logistics are still being finalized.
Any questions or comments? This is a presentation.
I have questions. Thank you for the report. It was really good and helpful to have all that background. I remember the restorative justice conversations at council, so it's interesting to hear the other side. When we were participating, and I don't know if you have this information, but what is the breakdown between youth and adults entering into an RJ process? Do you have a sense of that or not really?
I would say they're primarily youth.
It's primarily youth.
Even youth. When our referrals, I would say they were primarily youth. It's very rare you see the adult referral. It's not that we don't refer adults, but but I don't know the exact stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to understand that better, because I think that it's often youth as well, but I'd like to know why it's not adults. Like, what are the barriers to that, or why is it too much, that the crime is too high? Or I'm not sure, but it would be interesting to understand that better, why we don't refer adults to restorative justice. I think that would be really interesting information. And then, so it sounds like the city is funding CIRA, but not benefiting at all. Does the city know that? They probably do.
They're not funded much.
No, well, no, but it's 60 grand, which could go to another organization. Anyway, that's my personal opinion. Is it 60?
15.
15.
Oh, 15. I'm sorry, I thought it was 60. Yeah. Okay, 15. It's not a lot, but it's still something for no service at all, which I think we could benefit from using that service. I'm interested.
I think the grant program is probably far enough from council's knowledge, like oversight, or I mean, it's there in the budget, but I think the council's no longer involved in appointing annual grants, right? It's sort of done at a staff level now. So I would be surprised if all of council was aware of it. Actually, it's just one of those things where it's an operational line item of $15,000 that
Okay. And I noticed that it ends in 2024. So it might have been a multi-year.
It may or may not be reviewed.
3 years. 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm sort of interested in this idea that the school district is doing their own restorative justice. And I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd want to understand the qualifications that they might have to do that work, but maybe that's not up to us as, or potentially not our business. But I guess I would be supportive of us initiating this program again and understanding how we can participate, especially in the youth piece, because I think that there is benefit. And it would be helpful to understand the barriers to us doing that. You've outlined some of them, but as you do more of this investigation, it would be helpful to know what are the barriers to making this work in our community, because I think there is value to it. So maybe ongoing information back to us would be helpful. Yeah, I don't have anything else. It's just understanding how we can reinitiate it and understand the piece around adults, why they're not referred.
Part of that's related to the Youth Criminal Justice Act too, though, right? It mandates alternative sentencing as far as possible versus for adults.
There isn't, that it doesn't exist. Right? Yeah. Okay. But it's not against anything. It's just not mandated.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the report. It's really helpful.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Motion to receive.
I'll move to receive.
Move to second. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Police Amendment Act 2024 follow-up. Oh, me. I sent the board a bit of an email about that, just so folks know. I guess the direction from the province is that by July 27th, by the end of July, essentially, city councils have to appoint a member of their council to the police board, which may or may not be the mayor. Council in New Westminster has not had that meeting yet. I've given instructions to our corporate officer to bring that to an agenda. It'll come to an open agenda at council. And I suspect, just looking at agenda setting schedule, it will come probably shortly after our June meeting of this police board. Just looking at our council schedule, that seems to be where it will fit. So that means that council will make a decision in mid-June or later June. And that means that in July meeting of the police board here, the board will have to select of their members a person to chair the meeting. So from the governance side, that's really the only change that affects us. I mean, it could be a significant change. We'll see how it goes. But so I just want to put that on your radar. Heather.
Just one question. Does the council recommendation have to go to an order in council or not?
No, this is an appointment. This is an appointment to, just much like the mayor was appointed before, just by automatic.
There won't be any delays.
No, there shouldn't be any delays on that.
So if it's not you, so that whoever it is would be at the July.
It will appear at the July meeting in my stead, yes. And then your first order of business would be then to appoint a chair.
Right.
Yeah. And is there anything else in the other order, another change to the Police Act, Chief?
So the main, thanks, Chair. The main ones that came into effect immediately are board composition, which we just talked about. There are some language changes in a couple of different areas around the police board budget. There's a timeline when council can initiate or have to initiate it, and or after a certain timeline, the board or council. Minor change in that section. The chair and vice chair is obviously a different legislation than there was previously. So I think that is of importance when we talk about the roles of those positions, which I think that's work on. Then there's a whole bunch of 8 other areas that are going to have some impact on the board, but they're not immediate. They're going to come through regulation. So there are things around both within the members in regards to uniform. There's some training requirements for boards. There's some policy requirements in regards to service of policy complaints, but there's a 2-year time frame for that. So there are going to be some other changes. There's going to probably be some other impactful ones that the deputy is well aware of and sitting on different committees, but they're very, very early on, and that conversation will develop over time, I'm imagining. But I think for the board right now that wants to focus on are just probably how you want to deal with changing job descriptions in regards to the chair and board chair. And then obviously what's going to come out of the July meeting is actually appointed chair.
So I think that's mostly for information right now. That's our, yeah. I don't think there's any actions to take out of that in this meeting. Okay, so can I get a motion to receive, I guess. Seconded, all in favor, all opposed, carried. And then, oops, sorry, wrong agenda. CNPG partner invitation.
So this is kind of a two-part one. First part is, please, board, if you are going to attend, let Daisy know ASAP. It is August 9th to 11th in Halifax. I won't speak to the how valuable this conference is. I found it valuable. I'll let Mary comment on that. But it would be helpful to know, mainly because the deputy chief will then also be attending some of the board meetings. It's going to be held right around the same time as the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, so it's all from the chief around that time. But if you could let Dave know, that'd be great. The second part is just a decision of the board in regards to sponsorship. There is a request for sponsorship for an event everywhere. They've asked from everywhere. It's not in this package. It's actually a link to go to. But it's anywhere from $1,000 to $15,000 that they're asking for to sponsor different things like lunches or coffee breaks. I will just let the board know that historically we have not. This board has not sponsored this. I've left it to the provincial body to actually sponsor. That's certainly your prerogative, unfortunately, if you'd like to sponsor something.
Okay, I guess for my part, I'd say I did go to this last year, and I was actually impressed. It was actually a good conference. It was actually really useful, and it was, especially as I was relatively new or brand new to this job, I found it really interesting to hear what other police governance across the country is all over the place. It was interesting to hear areas where we do really well in British Columbia and in Westminster compared to other areas. It was interesting that we were in Newfoundland last year because Newfoundland has no police governance. I mean, that's an interesting, yeah, it was just interesting to hear them in Newfoundland talking about the challenge they have in their province without having any kind of effective governance over their policing. So, so I would actually encourage members of the board, if any member of the board is really interested in attending this, in taking up the opportunity to go to this meeting in Halifax. I'd much rather see us as a board spend money sending a member to go and engage in that meeting there and bring your knowledge back than to just send them money for a coffee, to sponsor one of their coffee events. It seems like a pretty well-funded event. So that's sort of where I am. So I don't want to put you all on the hot seat right now, but you are definitely able and funded to go to this if you're interested as a member of the board. And I would say maybe just, I don't know if that steps we do not need in our governance approval of that. But
no, just let Daisy know, and
let Daisy know.
She can assist you whatever arrangements and payment.
Yeah. Maybe let me know so I can let the rest of the board know if somebody is going, because it'll be good for the board to know if one of your members is going to be able to attend this. So that's the best pitch I can do for CFG meeting members. It was actually a really good conference. I was surprisingly good conference. I don't know why I keep on saying surprising.
Yeah, actually.
Well, I think it's because I really like our UBCM conference we do in the city, but I just hate the FCM, the federal level one. I just find it so watered down and so I just find it really useful bringing stuff home locally. Whereas this one, I was kind of expecting that a little bit too, but it was actually really useful.
Said actually again.
Yeah. Actually?
Yeah.
If I say it too much?
He said it 3 times.
We're still in open.
Yeah.
I'm not supportive of sponsoring.
No, I'm feeling very actualized right now. Okay, so we're not interested. I hear we're not interested in sponsorship, but the invitation is open to any members who might want to go.
Great.
So maybe we should just move to receive. Second, all in favor, all opposed, carried. Thank you. Now that actually brings us to the end of our agenda.
Surprisingly.
Next meeting is on June 18th, and I will actually be here. Thanks, everybody. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Thanks. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll move to our camera.